Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Alta Live of the new year. Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to see you all here for today's discussion on the hunt for the lost treasures of Baja and beyond. We are so excited to welcome Alta contributor and treasure expert, Geoff Gray. Geoff will join us to talk about his article in the latest issue of Alta, The Lost Mission of Santa Isabel. This is going to be great. First of all, Geoff, am I pronouncing Santa is I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Well, originally it was Santa Isabel. It was like, it was written. I've seen these old maps where it's like, in the old Spanish galleon cursive, but Isabel,
Santa Isabel. Okay, all
that will
right.
get you there
Thank you.
or get you close, if I learned.
Before we dive in, let me tell you about Geoff. I mean, there is a lot to say about Geoff, but brief his short bios. Geoff is a New York Times best-selling author, award-winning investigative journalist and filmmaker, and the founder of Nine Arches, the new and innovative real-life adventure game. Known for his quirky subjects and underdog tales, Geoff has been a longtime contributing editor at the New York Times Magazine and a contributor for Alta Journal and the New York Times. He has also been featured in the New Yorker, Fast Company, and has been a guest on numerous TV shows, documentaries, and media outlets. I myself have seen him pop up on Netflix while I was folding my laundry. Geoff is everywhere. Before we begin our conversation about the lost mission of Santa Isabel, some brief housekeeping. Alta Live is the digital interview series we do here at Alta Journal. If you are unfamiliar with Alta, we are an award-winning quarterly magazine and website focused on California and the West. You can join us as a member for as little as $3 a month and support the work we do, including weekly events like this, the monthly California Book Club. Our brand new issue, just released, is all about Baja. So we're starting today with Geoff. He's got a fascinating story in here about this missing treasure. If you like what we do here, please check us out on altaonline.com. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen to ask questions from our guest or from to chat. Please chat in the comments. Let us know to everyone where you are zooming in from. This interview will be recorded and posted to altaonline.com later this afternoon. It will also be emailed to you along with links where you can read Geoff's articles, multiple for Alta, where you can buy his book, anything else that pops up today. Keep your eyes peeled for that email. With that, I am in Chino, Washington, D.C., Studio City. Hi, everyone. I am in Novato, California. Geoff, where are you today?
I am in the heart of Mexico City. You can see it there. This is Reforma, which is one of the main drags in town. And I'm in actually the Spanish style restaurant.
Oh, wow.
Like a battleship, actually. This is like one of my hideouts in Mexico City where nobody comes here at all. And it's run by this the Spanish dude, and this old waiter is like kind of my friend. And every time I'm in Mexico City, I come here and just like kind of hang with him and run the ops. And so
You're in
it's
this
a cool
like
place. I think it's,
regal environment.
yeah, it's shining. There's like, buffing, a lot of buffing on the brass plates. And
I feel like
one of the
last
reasons,
time you were on Alta Live, you were in you were on a cabbage farm. I mean, you were in like the hills of Mexico.
yeah, we move around a little bit. And one of the great things about Mexico is that there are literally treasures, of the gold variety, but also of the cultural variety, and nice people everywhere. So, and it's easy to move around. Nobody's really asking a lot of questions. My guy Miguel here always gives me a hug, so it's great.
Raul is asking, what is the name of the restaurant? Can you give them a plug?
Oh, it's called Lipardo
Bardo. Okay.
in the Palacio Civil on the second floor. There's also a rooftop pool on the set of
Oh my
the
God.
80th floor.
We should have an Alta issue party there. Okay. Geoff, welcome back. It is so great to see you.
Thank you.
You
Thank
are
you.
a
It's great to be back with the
multi
Alta family.
Geoff is absolutely in the Alta fam. All right, so let's talk about Baja. Can you tell us, for those that haven't yet read the article, tell us about this buried gold in a cave, maybe somewhere in Baja.
I came across a story first in a roundabout way. Most of the stories that I don't even consider them stories, but they just kind of come through friends. I really have this philosophy as an investigative reporter, is that if you make interesting friends, you'll have interesting tales. It's like I really almost go for the friends first, and then the stories just generally come. And one of my friends down here is a guy named Danny. He's kind of like a rocker guy, we've done and shot some documentaries together. He's a camera operator. He also edits, does After Effects, does everything. And he's from a town called Ensenada, which is just south of the border, famous for its lobster and other things, but mostly it's lobster. And he was telling me, we were just talking, and there's a hotel there called the Mission of Santa Isabel in Ensenada. And he was telling me about this old hotel that was run by this like French guy. I looked it up later. And apparently this French guy, Gaston Fleury, was obsessed with this Mission of Santa Isabel, which was, I was to later learn, this forgotten Jesuit mission that was off the map, off the trail, and it was a deposit for Jesuit gold in the 1700s and 1800s. And so the story goes that when the Spanish learned that the Jesuits were allegedly pilfering gold, which may or may not have been true, they ordered and evacuated them out of Baja. But on the way, they didn't think that they were going to be gone forever. They thought they could like negotiate things when they got back to Spain and come back to Mexico. They they supposedly hid this treasure in a cave near this lost mission, which was they had organized this whole railroad route basically on mules of these missions, and nobody had ever found it. And there was gold, we know, in that area. And since that era, people have been looking for that gold, especially a lot of writers. Earl Stanley Gardner, I found, the Perry Mason creator, big Baja buff. He spent, decades looking for it. And so I thought, like, why not introduce myself to the wilds, the rough wilds of Baja by going to look for this mission. I didn't realize, looking at it in Google Maps in the areas, that like it was probably the most inhabitable place you could find to Baja. It took me a while to get there in some small planes and a pretty long car ride.
Well, no, the journey sounded, I mean, how much gold is in these mountains for that journey you had to go on? Just seems like exhaustive. But I'm curious how.
I would have settled for just a coin, really, honestly, or something from the gift shop if I found it.
So you fly out to essentially the middle of nowhere, Baja, where maybe this treasure has been for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I mean, spoiler alert, I feel like we would be on the news had Jeff found the treasure.
Well,
dive in.
We developed some serious leads out there. I mean, finding a treasure requires a lot of excavation. You got to bring a lot of tools. You need a whole team. But really, what we were trying to go. What's that?
You do?
Oh yeah, yeah, big time.
Okay.
The actual excavation of treasure is like, unless it's under someone's bed or in an attic, it's a job. You have to like raise money for it, and like you think about all the the Marines and the submarines and all that stuff. But one of the problems, I mean, I left Mexico City literally from this kind of area. I flew to Hermosillo, where I waited for 5 hours, which is a small town in Sonora, and then took a puddle jumper from Hermosillo to Guerrero Negro. And this flight operates 2 times a week. So I had to like really time it right.
Yeah.
Also in Hermosillo. You can't, because the Sea of Baja is such that you can't really kind of drive there. So I landed in Guerrero Negro, which is the most least desirable place in Baja, period. I think that outside of the whales, it's kind of this area of the Pacific where all the trash from the Pacific Ocean gets curled up into the water.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a plug and a sink for the Pacific, right? And there's literally trash everywhere in Guerrero Negro. You find it everywhere. I met at my guide, whose name is Zihul, who became a close friend, who was a major in the Mexican military and also a special armed forces guy, who he had kind of retired and actually was like making a living crafting knives from a lot of the recycled metals and cactus. So like all of a sudden he became like, it was a pretty cool guy, had a good truck, and had this lead of where the mission was, and his lead was pretty strong. And Zihul has been working and kind of wandering the back hill mountains in Baja, had made a friend 3 hours away who was really very close to the site where people believe the mission was. And she owned the land. Her family had been there for generations. They had seen elements of gold. She saw it when she was a little girl. And Zihul said, look, she knows where it is. She's not going to tell us, but she knows. But you need to earn her trust. And so the game became not really where the gold was, but could I win over in a span of maybe 24 to 36 hours, the heart of this like pretty kind of hard chiseled gas station owning woman, who was very suspicious of me. But we worked things out, and off we went in this dune buggy
How
that
did
hadn't
you
worked.
work things out with this woman?
I feel that like you can find your way to anyone's heart as long as you don't like ask for stuff right away. I feel like you need one of the ways to create rapport, which is so critical, I think, in investigative reporting, because if you're not in a state of rapport, you're just wasting your time. You're not going to get any information. You're not going to establish anything. But you look for things in common. You look to spend time with people. You look to not try to get things right away. I'm from New York, so I have like this New Yorker, like I need it now, like boiling underneath. But every reporting assignment, I'm always fighting this personal instinct to got to get the story, to just like trying to be a human being first. And being a human being is actually a great strategy for developing stuff.
Okay.
And she was I also ate a lot of her food, and she likes to feed people, so I like a lot. Look at an obscene amount. People are like, who is this person?
Okay. So you were off.
Well, it was kind of nerve-wracking, honestly, because we didn't really quite know. She had a son who was a off-road. We were lucky because her son was there, and her son was an off-road motorbike potential competitor. Off-road motorbiking is really big in Baja. He wanted to do the Baja Meal, Baja 1000. And he knew all the back areas better than she did. And it just so happened that he was in town and he was willing to take us on a tour of this backroads area. But he also really liked wine, and he really wanted this gas station Merlot. Okay, and this is like the big thing, is that he really, out there in Baja, the gas, like the wine selection's not very bountiful. There's not really a lot to choose from. But he knew a place where they had a Merlot reserve, which I'm putting that in quotes, which was like a low end Merlot reserve. And so I said, look, let's go out together. I'll bring a couple bottles of Merlot, and we'll go look for the treasure. And he was down for that. He had his motorbike, but he didn't really have anything to take us in except this dune buggy the motor wasn't working. So he had to spend, many, many hours and work through the night to get the motor working. And then one of the wheels fell off before we left. And then he tied the wheel on with like
Oh
this,
my God.
this like rubber band.
Sure.
And so, I'm like, look, I'm sitting in the front seat, the dune buggy's going, 30, 40 miles an hour. It's not like a golf cart, flying through these rocks and boulders. And I remember just like clearly just looking and watching that rubber band thing that he tied, like this like interior tire tube, and just seeing it as we were getting on, pull and pull and pull. Also adding to the difficulties, there's a lot of physical difficulties. The heat was bad. It's the desert. So the heat's it's an issue. But the bigger issue was that it just rained, and so there are all these big boulders in the road. And so every time that there was a boulder on the road, we all had to get out and use these picks and all work together to like move the boulders out so the dune buggy could pass. So like a jaunt of like 7 kilometers, which is like probably 3 miles, like took 4 hours just to get out there. But look, this is what they don't just hide treasures on the side of
Yeah.
the road.
Right, 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 right. They don't just hide treasures on the side of the road is your next book title, by the way.
But it was so weird and eerie and fun and tiring, and but it was all kind of worth it, or all felt kind of like, sometimes you get these feelings like, whoa, I think I'm in the right place here. Where after all of that, all of the picking, me and this guy Zahul were down on our butts, pushing in the sand to get these rocks out. If we couldn't get them out, we'd have to go back. But we finally puttered all the way to the top of this bluff, and at the top we could see the Sea of Baja. We could see the water from there. And all of a sudden it was this big blue view that you would almost imagine being, an old conquistador seeing this blue. And we saw these palm trees, and it's like, oh, okay. Like I could see there's a mission here. I could see that there was a potential civilization here. We made it. And, if only we had, 2 more weeks to search this mile area, and like, a crew of 150,000 people, then maybe we could finally find it.
But do you think that that's really what it would take if there was a cave? I mean, obviously, the land moves, the land shifts. There's been earthquakes, there's been hurricanes there, Um, would it really take, what would it really take, do you think, if you, along with these leads that you've developed, can pinpoint or get closer and closer and closer to narrowing down where this treasure is? Two questions here. What exactly would it take? And I'm curious, if you found it, what do you do?
Good question. Let's take the first one because the first one first. How do we actually find this? Well, imagine like let's because treasure hunting's been going around for a while. So let's imagine that we're not in the age of drones and heat maps and all that stuff. But I think that what it would really take would be a dedicated search where you actually siphon areas off, you grid it out. This is the realm of like missing people's
Yeah.
searches. When they call in the Rangers or some troop. Zihul is actually very well regarded, and his camp. And now I just have an idea of maybe Zihul using his military soldiers to help look for it. I don't know how they would feel about that, but in Mexico you can kind of make anything happen. But it really needs a grid, and it needs a search, and it needs time, and it really probably I would say 3 months and 100 people could at least cover this area because it is so vast. But the other way to go about it, and then once you get there, before you dig, you can really use ground penetrating radar. And I don't know if you remember previous Alta issues, but when I made some friends with looking for Ambrose Bierce's
Ambrose
bones.
Bierce. Yes. So Jeff has covered treasure hunts, not just for Alta. Um, in fact, and we will send you, Jess Plow, associate editor Jess Plow, has it all queued up to send in an email later this afternoon. Your hunt for the body, the missing body, for the location of Ambrose Bierce's death in Mexico. So Jeff has been on a search before for lost bones.
I know the guys with the gear at this point.
Right. All right. So then so if you find it, what are the rules?
Well,
And
Zihul
what
and I,
exactly would the treasure be, or what's the lore of what you're getting exactly? I mean, I know it's gold, but are there more specifics?
yeah, there's gold coins, like Spanish gold coins, that are believed to have been melted down by the Jesuits into religious artifacts. And one of the reasons, according to Zihul, who studied this, is that the Jesuits hid a lot of the gold by melting it down and making it into church objects. And that's
Okay.
kind of like how they hid it. And so I'm not going to say whose idea it was, but there was an idea floated around in the car. I'm not saying whose car it was, but of if we were to find the gold, to melt it down into a religious object and then sell it in the markets of Mexico City, about a mile from where I am in the Zocalo, because there's like a gold market there.
Oh,
Now,
really?
yeah, that's not what I would do. Okay.
Okay.
I wouldn't define myself as a man of science. But it's a historic object, and like Indiana Jones would say, it belongs in a museum.
This is a very Indiana Jones quest. Are you still on this quest, or are you just
Well,
you've caught the puddle jumpers, you've been out in the rolling the boulders with your back. Are you done with this?
well, we did just get warmed up. We were only out there for a day, and it was a long day. It was one of the longest days. I also mentioned that one of the other elements with this area is that there's cactus that are huge. The cactus, there's like small buildings out there, cactus, they're all around. And some of them are called charros, which have these big like prickers that are like not like golf balls, but like softballs. And the needles are like this long. And so when you're driving out in the dune buggy and you're going around, it's kicking up all of these charros that basically fly at you,
Oh, Jesus.
kind of like ninja stars. So it's like, and they hurt, like they really, really hurt. So, it was a little bit of a challenge there. But I don't know. I'm very interested in the story. I think that we have a great spot. We have great connections. It's on private property. We know the owners. A lot of times in a treasure hunt story, like the treasure's on someone else's land, which makes it trespassing, or it's on federal
Yeah.
land, and get all these other kinds of issues. So on balance, it's a pretty clean,
Do you think
you
it's
know,
there?
well, I think that there's definitely gold there from that period. That is undeniable. And we saw gold. That's what we saw old gold mills that all the way. Baja is very rich in minerals, so there's gold there for sure. The question is, if it existed, has it existed in a way that nobody's touched it?
Right.
Because there's, even though like the land's pretty desolate, there's a lot of people have picked through that land, and that's been all, it's just a lot of, so I think it definitely was there. I think parts of it could still be there. Does it deserve a part two potentially? But with more resources.
Yeah. All right, interesting. So I'm kind of curious about, so read the article in Alta, everyone. I mean, if you would like to, I don't know if Jeff's gonna kickstart a mission of Santa Isabel project. If anyone wants in, reach out to Jeff. I am in on the project. I'm not in on the dune buggy. Can you tell us there's lots of, you've explored, you went searching for Ambrose Bierce in Mexico. You have interviewed kind of the treasure hunting enthusiasts, the community of treasure hunters for Alta. How do you, as a journalist, kind of tackle? I mean, it's interesting that you said early on in our conversation that it's less about kind of getting the information fast and more about developing relationships, because you need people to tell you their secrets. You need people to trust you. What's the protocol as someone who goes out searching for a treasure, not as someone who wants gold to get richer necessarily, but as someone who's a journalist writing about this?
Well, all treasure hunters, in my opinion, and all of those who seek the treasure, and even those who write about it, namely me, we're all dreamers. We're all dreamers. We all have that in common. We're all romantic dreamers. And the treasure itself is just that. It's chasing a childhood dream. And that's what it all comes down to. And it's all the people in this world, I won't say all, but mostly all of them, all share this idea that there's still wonder and magic left on this planet. And that if you just are smart enough, or you work hard enough, or whatever, that you'll be rewarded with it. And so it becomes this, I think, an exercise not in finding the thing, which it is, but a way to re-identify with your inner dreamer, your inner child dreamer, and seek the magic and romance in life. And I remember when we did the Forest Fence story, which was a major piece, and probably one of the greatest treasure of our era. He was a romantic at heart. He was a poet. He hid the message in a poem. And I was able to, sitting with him for hours, not ask him where he hid it, but ask him about his life and times, ask him about his romances, and sort of, you know, share a glass of wine with him, do whatever it took to kind of like, um, it's not hard, if you're a romantic, it's not hard to ally yourself to another romantic. So in that world, that's what, that's the bond.
Interesting. So, and I mean, I'm curious about it just from the stance of like, you have, an editor, you've got to create a story. You have to create drama. I assume Blaze, our editorial director, edited you on this, and he's always just like, okay, where's the arc? I've been edited by Blaze before. He's tough. How do you, knowing the likelihood that on this story, this particular pitch that, you're writing this for Alta, you're probably not gonna go, oh my God, you guys, I found it. How do you create the narrative without turning into Geraldo and his infamous, Al Capone empty safe? He had done this whole kind of build up to, we're going to finally open Al Capone's safe, and it was empty. How do you deliver without actually delivering the treasure?
Yeah, this is a massive challenge of how to create a satisfying ending in a literary, in a piece of writing or literature, knowing that the odds are against you. And I love that challenge. That's why I love the genre so much, is because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard. Not only in the field is it hard, the prickers flying at you,
Oh, you
drinking more.
like the physicality of the pain?
Yes. yes, drinking Merlot, by the way, in like 120-degree weather after, it's not fun. It's out of a plastic cup. No, but I like the surrealism of it. I like the characters. These are my people.
Yeah.
I love the gas station life.
That's
Um,
the fun part to read.
but the thing is that I do go about it like as I'm really looking for the information. It's always on my mind of what the arc is. And as the great Blaze, great editors are always looking for that, and that's why it's so important. And the answer though is that every story is not always about what you're finding. It's really what you find along the way. That's the story. And there's so many different stakes of the characters that you encounter, and these twists and these plot turns, and these virtues and these human things that are at stake. That I think that's what's most interesting to me about the hunt.
Before we go, as we run out of time, and they're in the heart of Mexico City. I'm so jealous. You are as you said, a romantic and a dreamer, and you've been a long time kind of enthusiast of these treasure hunts, be it treasure for gold, a treasure of finding the lost bones of a great writer, the treasure of figuring out who DB Cooper is. In fact, Jeff's best-selling book is Skyjacked, and it's the story of DB Cooper, which, as you know, is a big, long fascinated me. Do you have and there's so many in the West, so many stories of missing treasure that is out there for finding. Do you have a favorite one? Is there one that you means the most to
I
you?
do. I do. Right now I do, but I can't say because I'm working on it right now. It's one where it's been like been working on it for about a year.
You spend a lot of time interviewing people who are out there looking for forest fence. We're out, hunting for treasure. Is there a code of omerta? Is there a secrecy about if you get a lead? I mean, I realize that part of this is building relationships, but if you get a lead, don't you have to kind of keep it secret to a certain point? I mean, what if the son who's the biker, the biker son of the gas station lady, goes and tells someone else your scoops, your inside stuff that you're finding out?
There is a little bit of not necessarily with Luis, who is the son.
Of course.
I actually trust Luis, and he's a really great mechanic, and like he's an incredible driver of off-road bikes. But in that world, the Fen world of treasure hunters, there is a little bit of like an industry, like a sort of like a shady-ish industry of people who are like selling information, or they're trying to get. And the truth is that none of it's all very good. And if you have to buy in, you can't really buy information at all, and that's not even a good idea. And but they're all characters, like they're all. To me, it's like they're all people who have a desire and something holding them back, that itch that they can't scratch. And from a storytelling point of view, that's very fascinating.
Yes.
So, and yeah, so I don't know. And a lot of the material I choose is so out there, literally both physically and difficult, that it's a very small group of people that are after that stuff. But I don't know. One of the things I love about these kinds of stories is that you can always pick up one expert that always leads into another. So I was just looking at a bullet hole in the back of a car recently,
Why?
to analyze a bullet hole in the back of a car from photo.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
But I developed a relationship with the sheriff from the Lance Gilman story in Reno, and I had him look at the bullet, and like he actually gave me a great take of like what that bullet hole meant in the back. So it's nice to sort of collect these odd group of sources, from like the brothel
You
owner to the
do.
sheriff who hated to and they I don't know, all what's so great about this, and what's so great about Alta, which I'll say, and I really, really mean this, is that this kind of journalism is really centered in people and humanity. And there are very, very few champions of it left. So just the ability to go out and develop relationships with these people who have never had really a real reporter or someone to actually spend the time to go and like, to sit in the gas station and eat all that food, to develop those relationships, to go out in the dune buggies. Like that's uh, a luxury in these days. So I just got to thank you and everyone on this call, all the subscribers and the editors for making this stuff possible, because it is rare and it's beautiful.
Well, on that lovely, lovely note, um, I hope you find I hope you whatever your hunt is now, Alta gets it. Um, but I will be watching, of course, no matter what. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. It is always fun to
Thank you.
talk.
Everyone come visit me in Mexico City.
I actually am like down for coming to visit you in Mexico City, Jeff. That would be really fun. Folks, before you go, I would like to invite you to next week's Alta Live. We're lining up a bunch of really fun ones. This is kicking off this issue, but next week we're going to talk about Dennis Day, who, if you are of a certain age, you might know him as a Mouseketeer from the original Mickey Mouse Club. Writer Ruby McConnell followed his life and tragic death. He ended up living in rural Oregon, and was died there. It's a fascinating and tragic tale, and we're going to talk about that next week. So come for the true tale of the missing Mouseketeer. Read Alta, check out Geoff Gray's work. We will send you links to all of that. And again, Jeff, muchas gracias.
Por nada. Gracias.
Bye,
Ciao.
everyone.